Hello, my name is Thurston Moore. I'm a guitarist and a vocalist, songwriter, founding member of the alternative rock band Sonic Youth, which began in 1980. We had many, many records through the years, and we toured constantly. I'm joined by the Fall and Extricated guitarist Brix Smith, Sacred Paws, and so many other bands member Rachel Aggs, and Sunn founder Stephen O'Malley. We'll be discussing the process of making music as musicians, particularly during this challenging time in 2020. We'll be discussing their newest projects. So, let's get into it. Where's O'Malley?
Is it working?
Yeah, you're there. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Guys ready?
Oh, I see what we're doing.
This is going out to the world. We're in the world, right? Everybody's all over the world.
So far.
Yeah.
I moved to London about 7-8 years ago. And I'm trying to remember where we first connected.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think I really like this about the music world, music community, when you often have friends that you're like, I actually don't know. There was just a point where I think you asked us to play a show with Chelsea Light Moving.
Oh.
But I don't know what band it was.
No, Chelsea Light Moving was the band I had before I relocated to the UK.
Was it? Oh,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it wasn't that.
But we did play over here.
Why do I have? I have a backstage pass for a Chelsea Light Moving show, so that
Really?
makes me think that I played it.
That's interesting.
But my memory is so bad.
I think I just remembered. I think I was asked to do some solo music on a tour that the X were doing.
That was the proper
the anarcho punk band from Holland, and I think that's when I first saw Trash Kit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that tour was amazing. I love the X so much, and it was so cool to be asked to go and do this crazy tour. That's like. How many bands? Was it like 6 bands every night?
It was Peter Brodsman
together?
and Han Benek and you guys and us and the X, and then some surprise guests every night. It was great.
And Fendika from Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
So
No, those kind of tours. Again, I mean, we need to get back into the pool ASAP with this. At Brix, I first met you in London when you were living here, playing with the Fall, but I remember Sonic Youth playing with the Fall in the very early 80s at this little art gallery festival in New York City called Speed Trials. It was at White Columns Gallery.
At the White Columns, yeah, I remember.
And it was 1982.
Yeah.
It was 1982, and I found out much later that when we were playing there with the Fall, that you were in the room, with the other 40 people in that room, and which is fantastic because I think that's right when you had made your connection with that group of people.
That was 1 week after I met Mark Smith.
Okay, so that's early days.
Early days.
You didn't introduce yourself, but I just find it really kind of sweet that we were kind of in this same room together. And we were just sort of young kids in a way, and
teenagers. I was a teenager.
Yeah, I was 22, but I still had a teenage brain.
You've got that. Even though you're very tall, you still have the elf gene. Yeah.
The what?
The elf gene. You're always so so young and radiating just this wonderfulness. Even though you're tall, you're a very tall elf gene. Yeah.
Okay, Stephen.
That's great. I love that. That's so nice. That's such a
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to hold on to that one, Brix. That's good. But Stephen, I remember you coming up to me you were curating this series of really experimental kind of noise music gigs in New York City, or in Brooklyn, actually. And I remember going to one of these concerts, and you came up to me and introduced yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I'm a noise guitar player, and you get to meet you. It was pretty important there.
There's a guy out there's definitely my next door neighbor is buzzsawing in the background. But I thought maybe that would be cool while I did this. Yeah, generally when I do interviews and I'm on the BBC, I like to have like a co-buzzsaw player. It's just like a signature thing I do. Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, when we played together in Paris, maybe like 8 years ago, at the Auditorium de Louvre, and
That's right.
and you were curating some concerts there and invited me to play duo with you.
That's right.
And it was like, what? that was
amazing.
That was amazing. It was so fun, and we got to know each other then pretty well. But like you guys were saying, it's like one of the coolest things about music is, well, traveling and then meeting people all around the world, and then meeting those people again in a totally different place too. So
Right.
like we could meet in Taipei, and then we could meet at the Louvre, and then we could meet in Glasgow in a punk venue or whatever, and it'd be
Right.
it's like that's the community moves around like that. It's not ambiguous either. It's really
Right.
it's really thick and substantial in all those situations. But we've been lucky with that.
I love that matrix that
Yeah.
we kind of coexist with, and where we kind of see each other in different parts of the world, where the world does become borderless.
Yeah.
It's a vocation that tends to transcend boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that attracts me more almost in retrospect. I don't think I had that much
Yeah.
appreciation or really articulated that so much in my younger days. And now that we're kind of stuck at home, more or less, it's given me a bit of a more of a contemplative perception of what that is, and
Yeah.
And how that kind of is such a great model for, like, I don't know, just sort of progressive consciousness,
Yeah.
in a world that seems to be really sort of pushing against such kind of ideology. But we won't get into politics.
It's a great way to be creative with people in different spaces, not limited by resources too. I mean, in some sense, I mean, of course, if you're meeting in Taipei, there's resources that bring you there and stuff, but just the creative aspect of it can flow.
You're listening to BBC World Service, and this is Music Life. I'm guitarist and vocalist, songwriter Thurston Moore, joined by the fall guitarist, my pal Brix Smith, Sacred Paws member, and my pal Rachel Aggs, and Sunn founder, and my good buddy Stephen O'Malley. It kind of brings me to this question about community. And Rachel, I wanted to ask you, because since I've known you, I've always thought of your bands, be it Trash Kid or Shopping, as really part of a really vibrant community here in England. And now that I'm talking to you and I see you up there, it's somewhat alone. I was kind of curious how you sort of have been balancing the situation of, we don't really have that principle, that pleasure principle of community.
Yeah,
anymore.
It's really tough. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not massively into it. I love to play music with people, bounce ideas off each other, write together. That's really my preferred way of writing, is with other people. But also, I love to play music in front of people, be able to spit in their faces kind of thing. For me, it's been just trying to be a home recording person, for now anyway, and try and find my joy in that, because I have been enjoying it. So for me, it's just like, I just have to do whatever is fun in this moment. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way that's super community focused. I guess one thing I've been doing is collaborating long distance with my band members, like with Shopping. We all live in different places anyway, so we have been doing that for a while, but it's just sad not being able to be in a room with people and writing together and just being like, whoa, we just went somewhere weird and I didn't think you were going to play that with this part, and the way that songs are formed in that way, I really miss, and haven't found a technology yet that is fast enough like a Zoom technology or whatever that is fast enough to capture that in the moment creativity and improvisation.
I just heard something of yours that I really was amazed by, this record that was in this Visitation series of records from the Scottish Isle of Egg.
Yeah, it is. Well, I was on the island last year and I recorded everything in 1 week. On paper, yeah, it's the first solo thing I've ever done. So, yeah, I was really happy with it, and it kind of encouraged me and got me in the zone of creating on my own in a very baptism of fire kind of way, just send me to an island isolated in a bothy a little hut for a week. It was fun.
Yeah, there was like sounds on there that you were recording that were from just the natural world, like just like crashing waves on rocks, and it was very cool.
Yeah, it's a really spectacularly beautiful place.
Yeah.
So it was really inspiring to be there, and it gave me a lot of tools that are very useful right now in lockdown, because I'm making music again on my own in my flat, and it's kind of similar environment without the beautiful scenery.
And I thought I heard some violin. Is that an instrument that you've been playing for some time, or did you just...
Yeah, it's my first instrument.
Oh.
I learned fiddle when I was, before I can remember. I've been playing with my family because they play folk music. They play Appalachian old time and English folk music and Scottish stuff. And yeah, so I'm not super good at it, but it's something that I love and I've always played.
I think you sound pretty good on it.
I make a noise. I make a good noise, yeah.
Well, that's what we're looking for, baby. We're looking for some noise.
Yeah.
Speaking of noise, Stephen, I just heard that you were recording in Nantes in France, doing this new Alvin Lucier piece called V. What was that all about?
I've worked with Alvin Lucier for many years now, and he wrote a piece for Charles Curtis, the cellist, Orrin Ambarchi, and myself as a trio piece, and we were able to finally perform that in Nantes. It's a really intense 36-minute Alvin Lucier piece, and they were concerts, but we also played in Strasbourg with that piece at the Musica Festival, and it's really like less than half of the capacity in the venue.
Course,
but man, the audiences are so focused now, and the musicians and the technical crews and stuff. It's really cool. It's like, of course, it feels great to play. But I think the attitude everyone's bringing, and my experience playing some shows recently is just, it's intense, but there's so much like gratitude.
There's a lot of emotion, obviously, because it's just because of what we're going through. And Brix, I know when we first met, your whole thing was just about people together and friendship, and in a way that informs so much of your musical voice. I mean, I always hear that in your songs. It's totally about that. And also for me, it just doesn't feel right to me to do any kind of streaming performances, because for me, it's all about the audience and connecting with the audience and the energy of the people in the room, like you were saying. And, you know, that it's amazing energy that just blasts through to outer space, and, you know, and just being around, just like you and I are friends and hanging out with people that we love. And it just feels good to be in their presence, you know? Yeah. Do you think of your process of playing music, and I'm going to ask you, Rachel, about this, do you ever sort of see the process of your songwriting as a like political exchange?
Oh, yeah, totally.
You think of it as a inherently political, or do you sort of step away from such kind of dogma?
I think it's a bit of a luxury to be able to step away from politics in your work. I'm not going to judge if you want to do that actively, but I think that everything is kind of charged with its own politics, and I'm just saying that because of who I am. Like I'm not white, not male, and I'm queer, and so I think that those identity things are always going to be present in what I do, and just like existing as like and making noise, taking up space, that is political for me. And it's funny because I maybe wouldn't have said that, and in certain interviews people said, is your music political? And because we're not like singing about politicians, we're maybe like oh maybe no, but then the more you think about it, it's like, who isn't political? That's what is a political art? Like, does that exist? I don't know. So to me, everything is
cool. I mean, it's a weird question. It's a weird thing to think about, and I don't think it's really it necessitates getting too analytical about. I once saw a talk by Amiri Baraka. It was at a poetry conference, and he said, like, well, if you want to write love poetry and la-di-da, that's fine. But it's a bit of a responsibility to be a writer, an artist, a musician, a filmmaker, whatever, and not consider yourself in that exchange, which is inherently political. So therefore lies a responsibility. And it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. It's like, well, I could do la-di-da if I want to. I don't want to have somebody to tell me that I need to have that responsibility. But then this year, as we sort of find ourselves in this situation together and apart at the same time, I realized that there is this real responsibility we have as songwriters, as people who make music, to create something that brings a sort of a politics of pleasure, which I think is really important. And so I think of the three of you, I mean, if anything essential to your work I derive, it's essentially pleasure at first.
Yeah, I think with Amiri Baraka, that's a nice point of reference, because he was in the jazz world a lot, and jazz is kind of like God's connection to noise and chaos and tension, and that's a really political expression, I think, of kind of Black joy, but also of like the Black movement for civil rights.
Right. That's
so inherent in that kind of tension, and that like is the magic that creates jazz. And I think that's noise or rock and roll, whatever it is we do, punk, right. That's all generating from that space for me anyway. And I take a lot of pride in that as like a person of color, but I also think like that political energy is in it for all of us. And sorry, I don't know where I'm going.
I agree.
Well, Stephen, I mean, in our household, we always sort of think of you as Mr. Pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Brix.
So my perspective on politics in music is, I mean, for me personally, and I can only speak personally, I steer very, very clear from that for the most part. I don't think anyone really cares about what my opinion is. And that is actually not something that generally drives me to be creative. Although for some people, it really empowers their music, and they have a voice and they want to use their music to get out their opinion, and that's totally cool. But for me, I really like my music to be escapism, not only for me but for the listener. Although saying that out of the weirdness of everything I've ever written, on this new solo album there is a track called Americant, about my feelings about being American, which I'm not sure if that's completely political. It's personal to me.
Is this a full-on Brix solo LP, or is it extricated?
It most certainly is Brix Smith.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so is this songwriting, is it something that we're going to be familiar with coming out of your last record, which was the Extricated record, Super Blood Wolf Moon, which was amazing? I mean, is it more like that, or is it something new?
Well, the whole album theme is dystopian California. So I'll be just drawing on what is pretty much ingrained in me from, my childhood, which is a combination of harmonies like the Beach Boys crossed with like hardcore punk and Crosby, Stills and Nash, So
damn,
it's a kind of mix-up, mash-up, but it's really the whole theme is about dystopian California, which is a theme that I draw on very, very frequently when I write music, even in my times in the fall. So it'll be familiar because it's me and it's my hooks and riffs, but I'm really happy with it. So excited.
Is it just you and Youth there, or do you have other musicians?
No, it's just me and Youth. Youth and I wrote the whole thing together and recorded it together. And most of it, actually, we did remotely over lockdown. We were due to start writing. We didn't know what would happen, but it turned so great that, now we've just finished the recording process. And the only other person on it is we got in a really great live drummer called Eddie Banda, who was up here with us and laid down the drum track. So that's it. So it was just
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, that sounds really exciting. Okay, you know what? We're going to wrap it up because I think we gave Music Life at BBC Universal Consciousness.
Yeah.
We gave him some heart. We gave him some soul. We gave him some blood. We gave him some rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it up. I love you guys. Thanks so much to my guests this week, Brix Smith, Rachel Aggs, and Stephen O'Malley. And thanks to you for listening. I'm Thurston Moore. Head to the website for more Music Life shows, bbcworldservice.com/Music Life.